Will a new expedition to Sumatra find definitive proof of the orang pendek? I'm Ryan Geckner, and I'm here with Chris Daly.
Last week, the world lost one of the original J-horror writers. Koji Suzuki will sadly never finish his final tetralogy. What new updates are there on the Conjuring House sale? This is Headlines from the Beyond.
All right, everybody, we're back. The end of the semester really killed us, so thank you for sticking around and tuning in. Let's just jump right into our first story. So, at the beginning of this month, Cryptohominid researcher Adam Thorn headed back to Sumatra for his second expedition to collect evidence of the orang pendek. Now, if you don't know who Adam is, he describes himself as an adventurer, jungle expert, and primate specialist. You may know of him actually from History Channel's show Kings of Pain, and he's also the host of Thorn's Jungle podcast and YouTube channel, which we highly recommend. Both are very good. He is going back to Sumatra in search of the orang pendek, which, if you don't know what that is, it's a cryptohominid that's frequently cited, or not frequently cited, but has been cited in Western Sumatra. Loosely translates to little person and is described as a bipedal, 4-foot tall hominid with various colors of fur. Now, Thorn recently launched what he is calling the BioThorn Primate Discovery Unit, whose goal is to, quote, investigate unknown primates by taking a more scientific approach. And you should go check all of that out over on their website. He's got all kinds of information about what he wants to do with that. And you can also become a member for free to follow all of the updates about his expeditions. I mentioned this is the second expedition he's been on in Sumatra. So during 2022, he went on a week-long expedition where in only that short amount of time, he found multiple sets of tracks that match descriptions of orang pendek, which he photographed and also created a 3D render of. He's got a whole video up on his YouTube channel of that expedition. I highly recommend it. It shocked me. I was pretty surprised watching it of the stuff that he found. And he even talks in other videos about how his guide, who led him to this remote part of Sumatra, even told him, like, look, dude, we're probably not going to see an orang pendek and we probably won't find any evidence. And they left this expedition and his guide was like, dude, I believe in it now. So that was pretty cool. Now, his goals for this expedition include a much more extensive group of field methods that include things like long-term trail camera deployments. He's planning to leave trail cams out in this region of Sumatra for 6 months, and then he will go back to Sumatra, swap out SD cards, and relocate those cameras. He also wants to use other recorded primates, particularly gibbon and orangutan vocalizations, to do calls to see if he can get responses. This is pretty common. You'll see this in a lot of the cryptohominid research. It's actually a method that's used in biology pretty widely. It's called playback experiments. You don't usually call it here. It called that in the cryptohominid world, but that's actually what the method is. And he's also planning to do more extensive eDNA sampling, which is DNA that's collected from environmental samples, things like soil, water, snow, air, rather than directly from an individual to see if we can capture some sort of DNA that doesn't match up with known animals in the region. And he also plans to collect hair samples if he finds any, as well as footprint casts. So we'll be keeping an eye on how his expedition progresses, and we'll keep you updated.
Yeah, that'll be exciting to see because we don't often hear about cryptohominids other than Sasquatch or
Yeah, and he's got a
similar.
really interesting approach to looking for orang pendek. And he's interested in some of these hominids or crypto hominids that are less popular, but if you dig into it a little bit, seem more likely to actually be real. So he's interested in the Otang in South Africa as well as the orang pendek, and these are two crypto hominids that are living in super remote regions, but actually have really solid evidence of their existence. It'll be interesting to see what he comes up with.
And I have to say, if any cryptid can hide itself from humans, another hominid seems
Yeah,
quite
yeah,
possible.
yeah, definitely.
Next, we have a sad story, and that is that psychological horror author Koji Suzuki passed away on May 8th. He was 68, which I think is way too young.
Hmm.
If you don't remember his name or are not familiar with it, you probably have heard of the movie The Ring.
Hmm.
He wrote the original book that is based on. It's actually part of a series called Ringu. And he's also written Dark Water, which was turned into a movie as well, and quite a few other things. He's considered the pioneer of Japanese horror, J horror, which is really known as a psychological horror with vengeful spirits, and it also tends to blend in a lot of traditional folklore in modern urban settings.
Hmm.
I happen to love J horror. I think it's a great genre. Also, just a big fan of psychological horror.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
Koji Suzuki is known as the Stephen King of Japan, or was known as the Stephen King of Japan. If you're not familiar with his resume, just a couple things. He won a Literary Newcomer Award for Spiral, which is book 2 in the Ring series, and that was a Japanese award. He also won the Shirley Jackson Award for Best Novel in 2012. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
That's for his novel Edge. And the Bram Stoker Award for Lifetime Achievement in 2022. So that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, it's quite the resume.
Unfortunately, he just finished up the first novel that was supposed to be part of a 4-part series, so we'll never see the end of that, and that's pretty sad. The world, lost an incredible author. So moving on to something we've talked about before, the Conjuring House.
Yes.
and the sale. So on April 29th, the lawsuit that had stalled the sale of the Conjuring House to Jason Hawes was dismissed. So this was through Superior Court in Rhode Island. And this was a suit that was brought by the owner, Jacqueline Nunez's sister, Elizabeth Greenhouse. She claimed that her sister was not mentally competent to sell the house. And the judge said that Greenhouse actually lacked the legal standing to file this. Only a court-appointed guardian can do that.
I wondered about that when this originally came out. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's not that the court said,
she is mentally fit.
Right. She did nothing about that. It was just,
or she may not be, but
right. We don't know the answer to that question, but the reality is that only a court-appointed guardian can file one of these suits. Greenhouse is now in the process of trying to become a court-appointed legal guardian, which is an interesting concept to me because this is an adult, this is a homeowner, and they're trying to say not mentally competent.
And also, I don't understand. I mean, we have, if you've been following our coverage of this, we have become mortgage experts, and I guess we're about to become legal experts.
It takes some years of law school.
I don't understand. Can you backdate that? So say she becomes the court-appointed guardian, then can you undo all of this? I don't understand how that works.
Yeah, I'm not sure because so Nunez has owned that house since 2022, but signed a deed and an agreement to sell it to Jason Hawes for $1.3 million. Now, the current mortgage holder is Summit and Stone LLC, which was formed, as we talked about previously, by YouTuber Elton Casti. Hawes's attorney is saying, there are some potential legal challenges still going on, but he's saying, no, Hawes already owns the property. So that becomes very unclear. So
yeah, and
what happens next?
Yeah, and if you follow any of Jason Hawes' social media, you'll know that he's been promoting this sort of Save the Conjuring House thing that he's got going. I think he was on, what was it, Kickstarter before. And I mean, even if you look beyond that stuff, I mean, back when the Northeast got dumped on with snow not that many months ago, him and his friends were shoveling snow at the property and had it all over their social media. So it's definitely, they seem to be definitely acting like they already own the place.
Right. Now, Hawes had agreed to not use the deed to acquire the property.
Right.
So I guess even though he's shoveling the snow, technically he hasn't acquired the property yet. Right. But we'll see what happens there. So I guess we'll just continue following this one.
Yeah, this one's gotten no less complicated. Well, that's what we've got for you this week. Thank you for listening as we continue to follow the stories of the strange and the uncanny. This has been Headlines from the Beyond.